Welcome back to the show. We got a great one lined up for you. Somebody roll that beautiful intro.
Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show. You can follow us on X, YouTube, and digperspectives.com for exclusive content. Right now, $2.98 trillion market cap for crypto. It's 2.99. We're off by 1.5%, 87,900 plus for Bitcoin, 2,000 plus for Ethereum. And by the way, Ethereum's been struggling to get over that 2,000 mark. So it's a big deal for Ethereum to be there. XRP, $2.45, off 1% on the 24, up 9.9 on the 7-day. Take a look at the range of price between 241 and 248. We'll keep an eye on it. Did you get your ticket to XRP Las Vegas? 65 days and counting, ladies and gentlemen. I'm telling you, this is going to be a remarkable conference. I'm sitting here looking at the running order for both days, and oh my gracious, oh my gracious. Listen, I don't know how else to say it other than make the investment into yourself. Okay, look, these are just some of the people that are going to be there. John Deaton's going to be there. Cody Carbone from the Digital Chamber. By the way, their conference is tomorrow in Washington, D.C. Donald Trump Jr. is going to be there. Get your ticket for that, too. Christian Carlo is going to be on stage this year, again with myself, and Brad Garlinghouse sitting with Dr. Chris Brummer and Uphold CEO Simon McLaughlin, Kevin Maloney from iTrust, Stephen McClurg from Canary Capital. What is he going to say about ETFs? Austin King and Omni, what's he going to tell us about SolverNet and Intense for the XRP ledger? My goodness, Mark Otto, founder of Monerex, first bank on the XRP ledger, come on in. Nancy Beaton from Uphold, president of MoonPay, Keith Grossman, Gregos Vlachos, I believe it is. Shout out to him from Axelar. Super excited. Dom and Phil Kwok from EZA. We're going to put together something and give away $25,000 to the best pitch from a builder or a developer while we're there over the 2 days. Bitwise's Matt Hogan. Are you kidding me? Oh my goodness gracious. So many more. Paul Barron is going to be there. Boone Bergsman from Web3 Industries. Wait till you find out what they're doing with real-world asset tokenization. David Schwartz, John Deaton, James Murphy, Lynette Zhang. The list goes on, and we got more. Oh, boy. Let's get started. Get your ticket, xrplasvegas.com. They could run out, you know. That's all I'm saying to you. Circle USDC becomes the first stablecoin approved for use in Japan. Shout out to Jeremy Allaire and everybody at Circle. I think this is indicative of where we're going globally, ladies and gentlemen. This is the actual post here from Jeremy Allaire. He said here, Circle becomes the first and only stablecoin to be approved for use in Japanese markets, with Circle launching new operations, a strategic JV with SBI Holdings, an imminent launch of USDC by SBI VC Trade, with other major exchanges to follow. He says, we've spent 2+ years engaging with Japan's regulators, major industry players, strategic partners, banking partners, and others to enable USDC for Japanese market, which unlocks tremendous opportunities, not just in trading digital assets, but more broadly in payments, cross-border finance and commerce, FX, and more. Major launch events happening all day today in Tokyo. I love this, and I love it because I think not long from now, we see this exact embrace for the real USD. That's what I think we see. So shout out to Jeremy for getting those doors open. We know SBI, as a side note for those of you that don't know or have forgotten, is a major seed investor in Ripple and R3, and they have a huge position with XRP and the banking system. Here we see Japanese real estate giant Open House Group is now accepting Doge, Solana, and XRP because they're already accepting ETH and Bitcoin. Another bullish step forward here in Japan. And now coming back home here, Brad Garlinghouse made the comment. Now we're going to be domestically at home here at the States. I want you to listen to all of this and stay with me here. Brad Garlinghouse, the market opportunity is massive. You have trillions of dollars flowing cross-border globally. We're already seeing a change in domestic interest. People are underestimating how big that change is. And factor in what Jeremy Allaire said. They're going more broad with stablecoin use, not just for digital assets, but for payments. Now you hear Brad Garlinghouse echoing the same thing here. Trillions of dollars flowing in cross-border globally. We're already seeing a change domestic interest. And they are, I believe, correct. I believe he is correct in saying that we are underestimating how big that change is. Stay with me here because we got a place to go today. I want to tell you that. Well, we heard Brad say this as well recently sitting down with Bloomberg. Take a listen to this quick clip.
If you think about the next forefront of stablecoins, now that the U.S. is getting toward clarity, what's possible?
Well, again, I think we're underestimating how big that might get. You know, today that market's about $230 billion. So I think some smart people think that may go up 10x in the next 5 years. I think that's probably right. I mean, the two leading players in Tether as well as USDC are both, I think, poised to do well in that market. Ripple launched our own stablecoin at the end of last year. That's already ahead of our own internal forecasts in terms of where we are at this point in the year. Still, we're small, but the goal is by the end of the year for RLUSD, Ripple's stablecoin, to be one of the top 5 in the market by the end of the year. And I think the whole market's going to grow dramatically over this year.
No doubt about it. But let's go back really quickly to right here because I want to bring you into the first part of this. Let me take it to right in this frame right here. And listen to Brad Garlinghouse get asked about SB or Japan and being in Japan.
With XRP seeing a gain over the last week. But Brad, I want to get your take on what Japanese banks may be preparing to do in terms of adopting XRP. What can you tell us about the growth story at Ripple when you look across the world, overseas markets?
Well, once the United States government filed suit, we really were kind of frozen in the U.S. market. And so about 95% of our customers today, Ripple's customers, are non-U.S. financial institutions. And those are some of the largest financial institutions ranging from HSBC and BBVA to payment providers you wouldn't necessarily have heard of. Markets like Japan, I think, are still unlocking. The market opportunity here is massive. You have trillions of dollars flowing cross-border globally. It's still largely dominated by the SWIFT network, if you will. And that's architecture. That's a technology architecture that was developed 50 years ago. There's an opportunity to modernize. That takes time, particularly when you have a government in the U.S. kind of combating that innovation. But that's changing now. The Trump effect, if you will, is profound. You're seeing that in asset prices, but you're also going to see that in the adoption of these technologies.
Well, it's interesting that he pivots the conversation when asked about Japan and stablecoins, that he pivots, talks about XRP, and then talks about SWIFT is really needing an upgrade. Oh, isn't that interesting? I love that Brad is triggered when asked about Japan and stablecoins to then take the conversation to upgrading SWIFT. Loving where that's going for all of us. Now let's get into this. Jasmine Cooper, shout out to her, and the head of product at Ripple at Ripple X, explains the permission domain tools on the XRP ledger, which can be used in the native DEX, the native decentralized exchange that's built into XRP Ledger's Layer 1. This helps institutions bring centralized exchange activity on the XRP Ledger DEX. Remember, the XRP Ledger DEX is essentially a world exchange. And it can't serve as a world exchange unless the world plugs into it. That's why I believe you hear Brad Garlinghouse and everyone else at Ripple say there will not be one ledger to rule them all. I think it's a bit of a deception, but I think it's also true because everybody else can plug their ledger into the XRP ledger and use the DEX to make a market for the world and anything of value. I want you to hear what Jasmine Cooper says in this clip. Shout out to Tony for it.
So imagine you only want players that are KYC'd and over a certain age to participate in your protocol. You can use credentials and the permission domains tool to do that. And we're applying that to a couple different protocols. The permission DEX is one. So this will allow regulated entities like Ripple to bring a portion of their payments volume onto the decentralized exchange.
Bring a portion of their payments volume onto the decentralized exchange. One more time.
Permission DEX is one. So this will allow regulated entities like Ripple to bring a portion of their payments volume onto the decentralized exchange and save on some of the costs and fees that exist with centralized exchange. So I think this is a really monumental feature, is in that it allows finally institutions to bring centralized exchange activity onto the decentralized exchange.
Up. Listen to that. What this finally allows for
Is in that it allows finally institutions to bring centralized exchange activity onto the decentralized exchange in a compliant way. So that's one that I'm especially excited about. We've already released some of the components of that in a release earlier this month. So that's out for voting through the validator set right now.
There you have it. So they are bringing the OTC wholesale back end, some of that liquidity to the public DEX to get away from the centralized exchange activity, and they could do it for better. It's obviously more efficient. They're beginning to plug in all the private ledger activity to the actual public DEX. That's what I'm hearing. I want to remind you of what they've been doing since 2017.
Right? That constantly goes. I mean, ultimately, as you know, Ripple is really focused on how do we enable an internet of value? How do we make value move the way information moves today? And that's our big kind of multi-year, 10-year view of how the world will evolve. And it's really how do we dial that back and to make it tactical and real today and tomorrow. And I think if you want to enable an internet of value, you've got to connect the repositories of value. Right. And the repositories of value, as big as the Bitcoin value proposition is today, the banks own trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars of assets. So if we want to enable an internet of value, we've got to connect the banks and payment service providers and MSBs, and we're excited to have made a bunch of progress on that. So how you
Well, there you have it. So now they've made a bunch of progress connecting all the financial institutions, the central banks, MSMB, all of it. Okay. And now Jasmine is explaining to us that they're now finally being able to move some of their payment volume onto the decentralized exchange, which also allows finally institutions to bring centralized exchange activity to the decentralized exchange, the XRP ledger, in a compliant way. It sounds like you're about to see the internet of value in real time. What do we need? Legislation. And then everybody has permission to flip the switch. So when we look at this and we hear Brad Garlinghouse saying, he believes that the real USD to be one of the top 5 stable coins in the market by the end of the year, I think Brad's not walking out on a thin limb. Brad is well aware of the level of institutions that are connected and about to move some of that payment volume onto the public DEX. Think of it for a moment. Ripple's about to unveil the internet of value to the world, and they're going to do it by getting the legislation passed in the United States, because as I have said about a gazillion times, I believe that Ripple and XRP Ledger are going to play a pivotal, massive role in the U.S. market infrastructure for the new digital on-chain economy. Again, the market opportunity is massive. You have trillions of dollars flowing cross-border globally. We're already seeing a change in domestic interest. Brad Garlinghouse personally believes that people are underestimating how big that change is, while at the same time, Jasmine Cooper from RippleX is explaining to everyone that Ripple is about to bring some of that back-end $70 billion in payment flow to the DEX, baby. To the DEX. Yeah. Listen to this clip.
Know who has jurisdiction
Starting
over
right
what.
here.
A big developed country like the United States, we already have many, many ways to instantaneously pay for things. And this wouldn't be top of mind, but it will be lower cost in foreign markets. You have, you reduce the cost of foreign exchange, you reduce the cost of fees across borders. And so in some countries where they have an unstable currency, a weak banking system, not a very good payment system, a smartphone app with a digital wallet with a dollar-backed stablecoin is a good way, even at retail, to do a transaction.
Brad, what's most important for the regulators to understand as they create this new framework for digital assets?
Look, the good news is people like Congressman Hill, they do understand. They understand how important it is for these technologies to thrive here in the U.S., and they have started to architect bills to help enable that. I very much agree with Senator Loomis. It can't just be, executive orders. It needs to be codified with legislative efforts by Congress. We're seeing a lot of forward movement. A stablecoin bill is already going through markup, and I think we'll see that come to a vote in the next 4 to 8 weeks. There's the second one that Senator Loomis also talked about was what we often call a market structure bill, providing clarity that we've been asking for as an industry as to how will these technologies, these tokens be regulated. Are they commodities? Are they securities? XRP was deemed to be a commodity or not a security.
What did he say? I think Riz called it. Bob Way said back in 2023, XRP makes a great commodity currency. Riz highlights it again.
The second one that Senator Loomis also talked about was what we often call a market structure bill, providing clarity that we've been asking for as an industry as to how will these technologies, these tokens be regulated. Are they commodities? Are they securities? XRP was deemed to be a commodity or not a security by a federal judge, which is the regulated. Are they commodities? Are they securities? XRP was deemed to be a commodity or not a security by a federal judge, which is the opposite of what the SEC had
said. That's exactly right. And I play that clip and I hang on that clip for a second because that is exactly what the SEC case gave us, what XRP isn't. And we're still waiting to find out what the U.S. government feels the XRP actually is. And in 2015, the U.S. Treasury Agency, FinCEN, had said that XRP is in fact a virtual currency. And I do think it is a commodity currency, and I do believe it is a bridge asset, and I've always believed it to be money. And I tell you, I think if you're going to really make the U.S. the leader in this digital asset space for the new digital on-chain economy, we're missing one big component that needs to come out with all of this legislation. Can you guess what it is? Zero capital gains on U.S. domiciled digital assets. It will make these value protocols number one at the drop of a hat. Not to mention the fact that if you're going to entice everyone to use these new value protocols to prime the pump of what is to become the Internet of Value, like the XRP ledger, zero cap gains is the way to do it. Why do I want to make a payment on a network that I'm going to get hit with cap gains with at the end of the day? It just doesn't hold water, to stay with the water analogies for Ripple. That's going to do it for me. We're going to the top, ladies and gentlemen. I don't see this going another way. I am super excited. Not financial advice from me or anyone else. It's just my digital perspectives. I'll catch all of you on the next one.